the trade deadline lost amongst all the election day hoopla and madness is later on today, 4 Eastern time. So get in while the getting's good. And joining us right now live from the NFL Network newsroom. Look at this, tapping out of his NFL Network responsibilities for at least the next few minutes. Mike Garafolo back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How you doing, Mike? Good to see you.
I got a good excuse, though. I mean, it's not like I'm going on with a random here. I mean, I'm going on with the cornerstone of NFL Network here.
I am no rando, sir, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So the Lions made this move for Big Z.
Yeah.
Za'Darius Smith back in the NFC North once again. Walk me through I mean, I can figure what their thought process is, but walk me through the why of this and the Browns coughing them up.
They being the Lions, since the Aiden Hutchinson deal, were nosing around looking at all kinds of edge rusher possibilities. This one seemed to make the most sense for them in Za'Darius Smith, a guy who's got experience, a guy who's got the ability to do a number of things for you up front. And this was just a matter of how would the compensation be finalized over the last couple of days here. So a lot of folks expected this to be consummated at some point before the deadline. And this morning finally agreed to the swap of the 7th and 6th round picks and the Browns getting a 5th back in return, if I've got that correctly, if I'm remembering that correctly. So this made the most sense of all the options that were on the market. I mean, look, we knew a couple of weeks ago that Myles Garrett was not going to be moved, that the Cleveland Browns were making it clear this was a franchise cornerstone pass rusher who's got plenty of good football left. He wasn't going anywhere. So at that point, it was, okay, who can they move? Za'Darius Smith making the most sense, and the Lions being the most sense for where he would wind up.
Do we know if the Lions shot the moon and asked for Myles Garrett to start? Or what?
I would anticipate they were one of the teams that asked about him. I know teams did ask about him, and the Browns made it crystal clear, like, you're really going to have to absolutely blow us away with an offer, and no one making that offer, obviously. So, no, I don't know specifically if they asked, but I know that the Browns did receive feelers because folks said, okay, well, are they going to start to sell off some of the key pieces? And they said, no, we still believe we are a competitive team in 2025. Why would we get rid of that guy?
So what does the edge rush market look like now that I guess the biggest name, if you will, available has gone? What does that look like right now with a few hours to go, Mike?
The one I'm looking at is Azeez Ojulari with the Giants, Rich, and there has been interest in him. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the season. He's going to make a bunch of money, period, whether it's with the Giants, although they have 2 edge rushers, one of whom they've already paid, one they're going to have to pay in Kayvon Thibodeau. So I just don't see the Giants having the money to get this done. So I believe in March we're going to be talking about Azeez Ojulari making a bunch of money because he's on his way potentially to double-digit sacks to pass his previous career high of 8. And there is interest in him now, but the Giants are holding out saying we're not going to give him up for a 6th or a 7th. That's not high. I believe a 5th winds up getting it done if someone's willing to go there. To this point, no one has been willing to meet that asking price. So that's the guy that could come in and potentially provide some pass rush help. Now, you might say, well, why would the Giants hold on to him at this point? Because they don't know how Kayvon Thibodeau is going to come back from that wrist injury. I know this is not a team we're looking at to be in the postseason, but they still want to be competitive down the stretch here. And for him, it would make sense to be on a front with Dexter Lawrence creating havoc, and you could pad those stats. So I don't think he's going to be upset if he's not traded because that'll help him set up his market for this coming spring.
So not to stray, but this is kind of an important question for me professionally as well. Not going to see Kayvon Thibodeau in Germany then? I mean, I know that he can get off of IR now with that wrist that needed surgery, but not likely for me to be calling his name.
I understand that there's still some concern with him coming back from that wrist issue there, and that maybe he's not fully there. So I would, if he doesn't play this weekend, I wouldn't be surprised. They do have the bye after that, if I'm getting that correctly. Both teams have a bye after this game, if I'm not.
Yes, sir.
So perhaps after the bye we wind up seeing Kayvon Thibodeau, but we'll see.
No, they both have a bye, no question about that. All right, so let's talk wide receiver market. Listen, I know Cowboys fans were hoping to see some new players, and again, I don't mean to denigrate. I'm not denigrating because you never know what you get in a kid that was a 2nd-round pick last year in Carolina. Jonathan Mingo really hasn't had much of an opportunity to show much. but he's going to get an opportunity, I guess, to hook up with Cooper Rush for the next few days. So walk me through the Cowboys' thinking here before I ask you for a Dak update.
I mean, they really like him. And, in their mind, they're saying, well, we would have drafted him way higher than the 4th round. So why not give up a 4th round pick for him? And a lot of folks around the league might look at that and say, that's a little much for a guy whose production really hasn't been up to expectations to this point. So listen, if he pans out with the Cowboys and his production goes way up and he is what they thought he was, and maybe a fresh start would be a good thing for him. It's really hard. That's why the Deontay Johnson thing was so hard, is saying, well, this guy is a potential 100-catch, 1,000-yard type guy. The numbers just aren't going to be there in Carolina. So it was actually impressive for him in what he was doing there. So you got to kind of grade on the scale if you're the Cowboys and you like what you saw from Mingo and you believe that he is going to be a guy who's going to take off in your offense. And that's why these evaluations for the draft are so important for teams, even if you don't wind up drafting the guy, because it's stuff that you can go back to and rely upon and say, okay, well, why didn't this guy's production match up to what we thought of him? Well, again, it might be circumstance. And if we get him in here, he might be a good fit for our system. Obviously, the Cowboys believe that in going after Mingo and giving up a 4th round pick, which was, higher than other teams certainly would have gone for him.
Well, higher than what the Ravens coughed up for Deontay Johnson, and that square that circle for me. I know the Ravens also sent a 6 with Deontay Johnson to Carolina. Carolina traded Deontay Johnson and a 6th and got a 5th back, and the Cowboys trade a 4th and get Mingo and a 7th. So square, because I know Cowboys fans will be like, wait a minute, we could have Deontay Johnson for less than what we sent for Mingo.
But you're only getting Deontay Johnson for the rest of the season. It's a good question, but you're only getting Deontay Johnson for the rest of the season, and then you may have to pay him $20 million per season, whereas Mingo, you've got him under contract for the next couple of years here on a rookie contract. So the cost always factors in. That's why with the Amari Cooper trade, when we were talking about that, the willingness from the Browns, not the willingness, they had already eaten the salary by giving him the signing bonus, converting his base salary into a signing bonus in the spring. So for the Bills, monetarily, it wasn't that much of a take on for them. That always factors into this one. That's why with Deontay Johnson, there was also, some extracurriculars with Deontay Johnson as well. I mean, he's been a guy throughout the course of his career. There's always been some extracurricular, I don't want to say off-field stuff, because it's a lot of times on-field stuff for him. So that factored in as well.
Mike Garafolo here on the Rich Eisen Show in his Tuesday spot. It's amazing how our cadence in our industry works right now, right? Monday is when you have the aftermath of Sunday. Then you got a game on Monday night, so you talk about it on Tuesday, and then you got your Thursdays, and you got your Saturdays at the end of the year. And then Tuesday, there's a new cadence here. Is listen to what Jerry Jones has to say on 105.3 The Fan, and see how awkward it gets, or chippy it gets, or how sunny he is. And today he said it's likely Dak goes on IR. What are you hearing?
That's what it sounded like from the beginning. Once you get into that, 4-week stretch of a hamstring injury, and coming off a Sunday, it didn't sound like they thought it was going to be there, but after the evaluations, they got to the point where it's going to be a month for Dak Prescott. So the fact that he is going on injured reserve, at this point, I would say not a surprise. Jerry Jones making it clear that was likely the way that this was going to go. You see Trey Lance there, Cooper Rush going to be the guy in the meantime. I suppose I'd be a little bit disappointed if I'm the Cowboys and Trey Lance is not up to the task yet. Again, giving up what they gave up for him, which was that 4th round pick last year, if I'm not mistaken. So, in the meantime, the Cowboys season, which has been incredibly disappointing, and if you could read Dak's lips the other day with regard to his own assessment of the team right now, adding this to the mix, certainly not a help at all. I mean, Cooper Rush has shown the ability to win games for you. It's just so tough to think in this spot for them. They've got some challenging games in the next 4. I don't have it right in front of me. Perhaps you do, Rich.
I do. I do, as a matter of fact. Because it would also be the assessment of many others similar to Dak, that of his assessment of the Cowboys, their chances of winning these games. I know it's Cooper Rush season, but home for Philly, home for Houston on a Monday night, and we know how poorly they've played in the first halves of home games this year. They're blown out. Then they're at Washington. You know the Commanders would love to put a pelt on the wall with a star on it. And then there's that Thanksgiving game against the Giants. before Cincinnati strolls in on a Monday night. That's the next 5, and I guess those 4, if he goes on IR, that'll be Cooper Rush season there, man. And I guess just if you don't mind, you want to clean it up, what Dak's lips were reading for those who don't know what you're talking about, Mike?
I think there was a bleep in there, but
Yep.
we suck right now, I'm not mistaken. And a lot of times I'm not so sure about the lip read. This one seemed to be a slam dunk there. So, and after that, seeing that there, after that 4-week period that he's potentially got, 4-game period he's going to miss there, you've got Thursday into Monday. So you've got a long layoff after that Thanksgiving game. Perhaps that'll help. You just got to wonder where they are at this point. And then that's going to lead into questions about Mike McCarthy and his job security. Jerry Jones has been adamant in his defense of Mike McCarthy. He's been consistent in his defense, still is consistent in his defense. If they don't make the postseason, I'm going to be really curious to see how he handles it. I happen to think Mike McCarthy is a good head coach. The number of games that they have won under Mike McCarthy is an indication of that. When you're the coach of the Cowboys, though, and you've got the fan base that expects what happened in the 90s, certainly makes things a little bit more difficult. But I applaud Jerry Jones for his support of his head coach right now, but the proof is going to be in the pudding for how he handles it after we see what happens here with Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys.
I mean, he didn't support him with an extra year on his contract. So when you hear veteran players like Zeke, according to our colleague Jane Slater, missing 3 meetings, including one on Friday, you're wondering, does Zeke not have respect for the process, the coach, or anything like that? What's your knowledge of Zeke's status and what happened, Mike?
I wouldn't. I mean, one player and what he's going through, and it sounds like there's just been some things going on with him that just hasn't allowed him to be fully locked into football for whatever reason. Okay. I don't have the specifics of it, but it's just been a rocky season for Ezekiel Elliott at this point, Rich, from what I understand. And I think that's why he probably got a little bit of leeway. Like, this wasn't the first instance for him. And it's just at some point, no matter what's going on, you're here to do a job. You've got to be locked in. You've got to be ready. You've got to be on time. And at this point, both parties decided, you know what, let's sit him down for a week.
Mike Garafolo here on the Rich Eisen Show. So crystal ball it, tea leaves, whatever you want to use for the next remaining hours of what you think is going to happen, who's out there, who might be active or who might be selling. Mike, what do you got for me on that front?
We have
something happening right now. Something happening right now. What do you got?
Well, potentially, we're watching a team, and I just got an alert regarding that team, so I thought that was it. No.
Okay.
But we've got some guys we're watching. I talked about Azeez Ojulari. I would say Marshawn Lattimore is another guy that we've talked about. The cornerback potentially could be on the move. We're keeping an eye on him as well.
Who would be in the market for him? Who would want to give the Saints, a nice chunk for him?
It sounds like some candidates in the DMV area, potentially for Marshawn Lattimore. We'll see. We're at 13 trades overall right now. 13 since the start of the regular season.
Yes, sir.
I know it's felt like a lot. It really hasn't yet gotten up to what we've seen in recent years. I don't think we're going to see numbers that rival somewhere around 20. I mean, I had a GM recently tell me we're going to get up to 20. I don't think we're going to get there. That would be a big time blitz here down the stretch. I think we're at the point now where teams are looking at it and saying, okay, we're if it's not a 6th or 7th round pick for a guy, we're not going to move beyond that. Like these are the ones that fill it in. Now, here's the other thing that's interesting to me, Rich.
Yes, Mike.
Talk about why there's more trades these days. I was talking to a personnel guy the other day, and he said, well, you got to realize in this day and age, there are so many coaches that have gone different places and throughout the league, and there's so much shared terminology that it's a lot easier for a player to come in, even if, so we're trading for depth pieces now. We're not necessarily just trading for frontline pieces. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what you may see here over the last couple of hours, that the guy can come in, get acclimated pretty quickly and be ready to play within a week or two. So that's why you're seeing a lot more action in recent years with the trade deadline.
And is Bill Belichick looming over the coaching hiring process right now, Mike, for sure?
No question. And last year it was a question of, is he a fit for teams? And we got a lot of no's. This time I think you're going to lean more towards owners saying, there's a gimme coach right here. Like I know I'm going to be competitive when I bring this guy in, and how could I not hire him? Whereas last year it was like, give me a reason to hire him. But every conversation that you have regarding prospective head coaches, in large part because the feeder system is sort of dry right now. We don't have a lot of young offensive head coaching candidates. I mean, Ben Johnson has decided to not take a job over the last couple of years. If he potentially decides to do that again, and has he scared off teams by not making that leap? So you take him out of the equation. Now you're only talking about Bobby Slowick, Drew Petzing, a couple of these other guys here. It's not like we've got a lineup of 5-6 young offensive-minded guys ready to take a job. So, yeah, I believe Belichick's going to be certainly on the front lines of the coaching searches as we come up here.
The last one for you. What is going on in Chicago with DJ Moore? The week after Tyreek Stevenson, we all know what happened, and on the Hail Mary. And then DJ Moore, who's a vet, and a leader on this team, strolling off the field while Caleb Williams is keeping a play alive. Either he thought that the play was dead, he strolled off, and then being asked in a local radio appearance if Eberflus has lost the locker room, and his response is, "I want to say no," and then gives an answer that things are, now back to square one. They're 0-0. Let's turn the page. Things like that. Is there any smoke, fire here? What's going on, Mike?
Not to mention the fact that they haven't even played a divisional game yet, right? They got all 6 divisional games, and that division is arguably the best in the NFL right now. So you're looking at where the Bears are right now, and the fact that any of these things isolated, Rich, on the field, okay, fine. Now you start to put them all together. And now, yeah, the players are watching what we're watching. So it sort of snowballs and it eats itself, basically. So Matt Eberflus has got some work to do here to rally these guys, not only to win games, but also to believe in him and to believe in this coaching staff, and to stop doing all these things that we're capable of reading into, right? It's going to be a challenge for Eberflus and the Bears down the stretch.
I mean, do we know what DJ Moore did? I mean, do we have any insight here? It's just, have you ever seen anything like that? I haven't seen anything like that, right?
That was a very, very odd one, Rich. And you're right. The question and his response or lack of a response, what he didn't say there, is certainly something you got to worry about.
All right, brother. Thanks again. I know you're busy. Go back to work. Thanks again. Tell everybody thanks for sparing you for 20 minutes for me. Appreciate it.
You got it. Thanks, Rich.
That's Mike Garafolo right here on the You're No Rando show on the Roku Sports Channel. Thanks again, Mike. Here you go. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku Channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.